Hello there.
Hello.
What is your name, please?
My name is Marjorie Schultz.
And I take that you're from California also.
I am originally from New Orleans, Louisiana, but I currently reside in Los Angeles.
How did you make that transition from Louisiana to California?
My parents brought me to California as a child.
Being from Louisiana, what is your ethnic background? I mean, your history. Where were you from before you came to Louisiana?
Well, I would say my ancestry is really diversified. I have some white ancestors that we can clearly identify. I also have, from oral history, my third great-grandmother said she was Native American. I can't prove any of that, but just from the oral history that's been passed down, this is what they say, that we are descendants from a Native American Sioux.
So how long have you been, what got you interested in doing your research on your ancestry?
About 25 years ago, I was in New Orleans visiting some relatives. I had just gotten married, and my uncle told me, he said, "Oh, when are you coming back home for a family reunion? When are you going to put a family reunion together?" And I said, "Well, you know, I'm always coming back to Louisiana for my mother's people." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, your dad family, we need to get them together." So he says, "Well, you know, your grandfather had 23 brothers and sisters." And I said, "What?" And I mean, I always felt as a child going back visiting that everybody in the state of Louisiana was a kissing cousin, because when you were introduced to them, you know, they said, "Oh, this is your cousin," you hugged and kiss. So I figured the state of Louisiana was all my kissing cousins. So I just endeavored, okay, I am going to find out how many of these people are actually blood related to me. And with that quest, I discovered that my great-grandfather did, in fact, have 23 brothers and sisters. I can name and identify 18 of the 24 total, and all the descendants of the ones that had children up to today.
So were all 23 full brothers and sisters?
No. The ones that I can identify came from 2 women. There are 6 that I have not been able to identify, and the earliest one that I can identify was actually born in 1854. I have a picture of her, and I know all of her descendants. I have information on all of her descendants. So I have 2 wives. The story was the first wife died shortly after childbirth, after the 3rd child. So I can identify her 3, and then my great-grandmother, all 15 of her. So that's the 18 family members that I can actually identify.
So as you were searching through all of this, did you see yourself in any of these people?
Well, on my maternal side, I'm a registered nurse by profession. I'm retired. And on my maternal side, my second great-grandmother, my third great-grandmother, all were midwives. So that instinct to cater, to care for the ill, and do things like that was just like instinctively in me, because as a little girl, that's what I always wanted to be, was a nurse.
You know, that's interesting, because I hear people talk about all the time that you know there seems to be a certain thing in their family, but they just keep it in a very light, almost like a spiritual way. They don't know that it's factual.
Right. Well, I didn't really know that they were midwives until much later on. Almost as an adult, talking to my mother, started doing this, and she said, "Oh, well, you know, your great-grandmother was a midwife. I was delivered by her at home." And I'm saying, well, I've always liked, when I was in nursing school, my interest was specific pediatric care, the children. And I worked in the neonatal nurseries for many, many years before I went on and to get my degree. So it was just like, oh, I see now, I can understand now why. What it is, it's something that was inherent. My mother didn't like it, although she did work in the doctor's office and the pediatrician's office. So it's there. There was something there in all of us that wanted to do this.
So how did your academic side of joining the Historical Society or the Genealogical Society, how did that help? How did those 2 sides work together, the spiritual part and the part of actually going through the records? How did those play together?
Now, that's a very interesting question, because when I first started this, I didn't have a clue as to what I was doing. I was what I call collecting names. And so when I start collecting names and just identifying the connection to everyone, that then I started to say, well, how can I prove this? How do I know that they, in fact, are blood related to me? So it's just because I am a college graduate, I know how to do some research, I know the importance of documentation, and, you know, doing your footnotes and all of that, that it just kind of gelled. I was never a history buff in school. I didn't like history. I didn't like geography. And believe you me, now I'm learning a lot about American history, history in general, that it's just broadened the whole horizon of doing genealogical research.
You know, that kind of goes to the fact that if certain disciplines were taught more specifically as to how it relates to you, maybe across the board academically, we could better relate to the subject areas.
Exactly, exactly. I feel like if somebody was telling me, okay, what about the Civil War period? How did that affect your family? What was going on? And the wars that went on? You know, if you had family members that were in the war. I actually have a great-grandfather that was a Civil War veteran, and he was a Civil War veteran in the Union Army. He received a pension from 1890 till he died in 1930. So, I mean, that was like, oh, wow, then it would have made more sense to me what was going on, what was the real reason behind the fighting, and who fought. This is a Southern gentleman that was actually mustered into a Union Army.
So, you know, how has your California group, how have you benefited by joining this larger society?
Okay, it's very important for anybody doing genealogical research because you have that networking, and you never know that there may be someone there that is related to you that you didn't know, and it's a learning environment because you get to talk to people, you can find out what their specialties are, what areas they're researching, and how they went about the researching. So anyone that's wanting to endeavor into genealogical research, they need to belong to societies. That networking is there. So it's very important. And conferences like this, if you are around here and you see all the networking that's being done, you meet new friends, you find out. For example, I have a badge that I wear with all of my surnames. That is the starting of a conversation. And people say, oh, I have family there. Where is your family from? So it's that networking that is very important for researchers.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.